Welcome to my channel. Today we will meet a very formidable woman, Anne Bonny, aka the fearless pirate queen of the Caribbean. Anne Bonny was a 20th century Irish pirate who operated in the Bahamas and the Lesser Antilles. She has been described as one of the most ruthless pirates ever, with her ruthlessness only being matched by her beauty. Her reputation struck terror into the hearts of sailors up and down the eastern seaboard of the United States and the West Indies. She plundered and pillaged on merchant ships and coastal settlements, making off with riches beyond the wildest dreams of other buccaneers. Yet her story is an enigma wrapped in a shroud of mystery, leaving many questions about her life unanswered. Who was Anne Bonny? Where did she come from? And how did she die? We may never know for sure, but that doesn't stop her legend living on in the annals of history. In the 1700s, piracy was a way of life in the Caribbean. Pirates were respected and feared, and there were even pirate havens like Port Royal, Jamaica, where pirates could live among their fellow scalawags, spend their ill-gotten gains, and recruit new crew members for their adventures. But this was before the golden age of piracy, which would occur in the following century. Anne Bonny was born in Ireland in 1700. We don't know much about her early life, but it's thought that she was born into poverty, which was common at the time. There were no child labor laws, and children were expected to work long hours for little or no pay. Life was hard, especially if you were a girl. Girls were often married off at a young age to men they didn't know, and they had little opportunity to get an education. This would have been the case for Anne Bonny. When Anne was just 14 years old, she married a man named James Bonny, who was 12 years her senior. They lived together in poverty in the slums of Ireland's capital city, Dublin. The couple soon had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Life was difficult, and so when Anne was offered the chance to travel to the Bahamas with her family and start a new life, she jumped at the opportunity. Once in the Bahamas, Anne and her husband bought a small plot of land and built a house. It was a modest dwelling, but it was theirs. They lived a simple life, growing food in their garden and raising their children. But it wasn't long before Anne's restless spirit began to stir within her. She was beautiful and fiery, with a quick wit and a sharp tongue. She had a taste for fine things and a thirst for adventure. She grew bored of life in the Bahamas. One day, Anne met a dashing pirate captain named Calico Jack. He was a notorious privateer with a colorful past and a reputation for daring raids and audacious escapes. Anne was captivated by his tales of adventure on the high seas. As they talked, Anne felt a sense of excitement and anticipation that she had never felt before. She knew in her heart that she was meant for something more than the humdrum of everyday life. Anne Bonny left her husband and children behind and set sail with Calico Jack. She quickly became his lover and confidant, and he trusted her implicitly. When Calico Jack was captured by the authorities and imprisoned, Anne used her feminine wiles to good effect. She bribed a guard to help her tunnel out from under the jail cell, and the pair escaped together. Soon after, Calico, Jack, and Anne Bonny were sailing the seas together as a fearsome pirate crew. They raided merchant ships and coastal settlements, making off with riches beyond the wildest dreams of other buccaneers. One of their most daring exploits was the capture of a Spanish galleon laden with gold and silver. It was a huge prize, and Anne is said to have personally pocketed over 100,000 pieces of eight, but not all was well in paradise. As Anne's legend grew, so did the bounty on her head. The authorities were desperate to capture her and bring her to justice. Eventually, they offered her pirates a noble ransom of 200,000 pieces of eight to surrender peacefully. But Anne refused. She was too rich, too powerful, and too famous to back down now. However, as time went on, the fighting began to take its toll on Anne. She was injured several times, and she knew that she couldn't keep up the pace forever. Eventually, she and Calico Jack were captured and sentenced to death. In the end, Anne Bonny was hanged on November 18, 1782. She went to the gallows bravely, defiantly spitting in the governor's face as he offered her a noble death. Her head was cut off and hung from the bowsprit of the ship that had captured her as a warning to other would-be pirates. Anne Bonny may be gone, but her legend lives on. There are books, films, and TV shows about her life and times. She is a folk hero to some, and a cautionary tale to others. But there's no denying that she was a force to be reckoned with. She was a fearless pirate queen who lived life on her own terms. She took what she wanted and gave as good as she got. Today, we remember Anne Bonny for her bravery, her cunning, and her indomitable spirit. She was a true original, a woman who carved her own path in a man's world. She was also a ruthless killer who showed no mercy to her victims. Some say that Anne Bonny was born ahead of her time. She was a woman who didn't need a man to protect her, and she was unafraid to speak her mind. She was also fiercely independent, and she valued her freedom above all else. In today's world, we celebrate women like Anne Bonny. She was a trailblazer who broke the mold, and she showed the world that women can do anything that men can do. Anne Bonny was a real badass. She was not only a skilled fighter, but she was also a master of disguise. She could easily blend in with a crowd, and she was adept at picking pockets. In fact, she was once accused of stealing a man's wallet while he was sleeping. She was also a talented sailor and navigator. She knew the waters of the Caribbean like the back of her hand, and she was able to navigate by the stars. Anne Bonny was a true original. She was not afraid to be different and she never tried to conform to society's expectations. She was also very intelligent and she used her wits to get ahead. She was a master manipulator, and she was able to get people to do things her way. Anne Bonny was a force to be reckoned with. She was a woman who knew what she wanted and she wasn't afraid to go after it. She was also a woman who wasn't afraid of death. She faced her executioners with a defiant smirk on her face and she spat in the governor's face as he offered her a noble death. In conclusion, Anne Bonny was a legendary pirate who made a name for herself during the golden age of piracy. Although her early life is shrouded in mystery, her exploits on the high seas are well documented. She was a fierce fighter, a skilled sailor, and a master of disguise. She was also a talented navigator and a ruthless killer. But perhaps what made Anne Bonny truly formidable was her indomitable spirit. She was a woman who refused to be intimidated by men, and she fought for her freedom until the end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and share with your friends. Subscribe for more content. See you next time.